What's going on, guys? No, just checking in. Tonight I felt like it was as good a night as any to talk about a more serious thing. Um, something I don't like talking about. I like running my mouth, but I don't like talking about this. But I figure I'd go ahead and tell you guys my experience in a psychiatric ward of a hospital on lockdown. Wasn't there on my own accord, you can bet your ass. I do need to keep my voice down because I got people around me sleeping, but in a calm way. I'll go ahead and tell you what it was like for me. I had a lot of misconceptions about what it was going to be like to be put into a psychiatric ward. I kind of thought it was one of those things where I was going to end up in a padded cell with a straitjacket on. I was going to be pumped up on meds. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying that wasn't my experience. Um, I feel like it's sort of self-explanatory, but if you can't gather, I obviously was very depressed to end up in a psychiatric ward, and I was probably a few months into my major depressive episode, and I was really suicidal. And I was getting extra mouthy about my suicidality to the people that were charged with my care, keeping me safe. My parents, namely, siblings, friends, and of course my woman, my lady, Jessie. Although I kind of like that, I should just call her my lover. But anyway, one day I was extra vocal about my interest in taking my own life, and my mom had had enough. She'd had enough, and she no longer felt comfortable listening to the threats. And she was sort of in a vulnerable place because it was just going to be her and me, and I'm obviously a lot bigger and stronger than my mom. If I wanted to dip out, I would. And she just got this gut feeling like maybe I was ready to go ahead and do it. I just watched a documentary on suicide, and I was really writhing in pain. I didn't think I could hang on much more, so she had my younger brother, Tamba, who's a big, strong guy, just as big and strong as I am. Had him kind of take hold of me, and they took me to the hospital, and I thought that was it. I really did. I thought that was the end of my life. I thought I would die in the hospital. They took me to the ER, and I begged my mom. I begged her. I said, please, 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 just take me back home. I won't. I won't hurt myself. But she knew that I'd say just about anything to get out of that particular predicament. She was right. Um, One thing that was really normal, you know, when I was depressed for me was just like a lot of people, I was just completely void of feelings. I was just numb, other than being able to experience like agony, and pain. But mental clarity wasn't there, and I just felt numb. I was just sitting in that ER, and I was not allowed to go home no matter what I said. They put me on a psychiatric hold, a lockdown, 72 hours. And Jessie came, my fiance, stayed with me before they took me away. And I just sat there, I just cried. I just cried and cried and cried. And then eventually, once the caseworker, social worker was done with me, they kind of took me away from my family. And I didn't think I'd ever leave that place. I didn't think I would survive that experience. Even though I was in a place that I understand now was really safe, really secure, I just didn't think I was going to be one of those people that made it out of there. And I remember that first night trying to sleep, and I just couldn't. Nighttime's so scary when you're severely depressed and you're agitated as well. So I couldn't sleep. And that second day, they took me upstairs, to the psychiatric ward, I guess you would say, the department. This is the section of the hospital where it's lock and key. Once you go in, unless you got special permission or a reason to go out, that's beyond your own needs, like wanting to, desires rather, you're in. So they gave me the little tour, they took me to a room, and I had this whole view of the city, of the west side, and I just remember looking out that window. I was so sad, and I was so scared, I was so empty. I had my own bathroom, and anyway, I don't even know. I think what's important to know is that here's the good, bad, and the ugly, right? The good is that the people there were incredibly nice, especially the social workers. People that are in those sort of environments, man, there's got to be something personal in it for them Because why else would you subject yourself to such morose, melancholy folk like me? And it wasn't just depressed people in there. There was bipolar people, schizophrenics, but suicidal people nonetheless. Next door to me, there was this woman who couldn't move. She was what they call catatonic. That was horrifying, because I thought maybe I would end up that way too. She just sat in her bed the whole time and didn't move and wouldn't eat and was so skinny, and she was like a zombie. And my room was right next to hers, and they had us like monitored like crazy often. Every 15 minutes someone was in there to make sure you were okay. And I remember the first night upstairs, now second night there, I remember thinking, how can I kill myself tonight? I don't want them to pump me full of drugs. I don't want them to lock me up in a padded room and straitjacket me. I didn't know if that's where I was headed. I just didn't know. And so I remember looking around trying to figure out how I could pull this off with the limited clothing that I had. I had no laces in my shoes. I was like, is there a way I can fashion a noose? I belonged where I was. But I had no choice but to be safe, and that was its own type of torture. It was its own type of agonies that you're like, damn, even if now I've lost the freedom of choice, even if I so decide to impulsively act on my misery, I can't. And that was scary too. Although I'm really grateful they kept me safe. Do not get it twisted, because I am someone who is really, really happy to be alive today. And I never thought I'd say that, But I am, and I have been for a while. So if you're suffering, know that if I can do it, so can you. But anyway, I remember the second morning I was there, maybe the third morning I was there, my dad came to visit me, and they let him come in, and he just put pictures all around my room of my family and of my fiance Jessie and my friends. And he looked me square in my eye, and he said, I do not give you permission to die. And I do not give you permission to give up. Your family's pulling for you. Everyone's pulling for you. And I really remember that gave me hope. And while I was there, one thing I did get was a forced ear. They had a doctor come and sit with me and spend some time with me. Now, I'm not going to lie. The dude had good intentions, but I don't remember him. I had this weird, uncanny ability that, even when I was severely depressed, other than the people that knew me really well, I could fake it, like I wasn't that depressed. I remember people, like the doctor saying, I have no doubt that you're suicidal and you're depressed, but you don't seem that depressed. What can we do to get you out of here? And he wanted to completely take me off medication. And I think that was something that it was really interesting to me at the time, is that I had this other doctor, who shall remain unnamed. He had me on a bunch of medications, an antipsychotic, mood stabilizer, and an antidepressant. Plus I was taking what's known as trazodone. It's an old school antidepressant that a lot of people don't use except for off-label to get me to sleep. He thought I was over-medicated, so he took me off all these medications, and he just wanted to keep me there and keep an eye on me. And so I went to some of the classes during the day. I couldn't retain much. I cried and I cried and I cried, but mostly I had a safe environment, and I connected with the social workers. So for 4 or 5 days, I think I was in there, 5 or 6 days, I mostly found a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration from social workers and caseworkers who were very, very empathetic. And I remember them telling me that they believed I was going to be okay, and that reassurance meant something to me. And truthfully, I got claustrophobic being in there because you can't get out. And even though I was really scared of the outdoors at the time, agoraphobia a bit, because agoraphobic, because I had depersonalization, so there was sensory overload. I remember I had this like gut check moment, when I was in there, and I was like, I'm either going to try to live, even though I didn't believe it was possible that I could survive my mood disorder, but I told myself I'm either going to try to get out of this, or I'm going to be in here forever. I thought I couldn't stand being in there even for another moment. But somewhere in that experience, I found my will to live. Enough positive reinforcement, being around enough people that had seen severe depression and reassured me that there was hope. I just found my will to live. And even though I sort of faked it, I changed my tune from my moaning and groaning about suicide to I want to fight, I want to live. What do I have to do to get out of here? And I feel like the doctor was a bit reluctant, but he met with my mom and met with my dad via speaker phone. And after being as active a member as I could be in there, they decided it was okay to let me go and let my care return back to home and within my psychiatrist's care outside of the hospital. But my overall experience was, I mean, given the fact that it's just a horrific place to end up for anyone, you know, it just like epitomizes the fact that you can go no lower. Beyond that sort of cynical look at it, it was actually pretty great. You know, it breaks my heart sometimes when I drive by and I look up at the hospital wing where I was, because it's pretty close to where I live. But they kept me safe. They fed me. They offered me hope, and you know, they listen. The doctors, they really did listen. I truly believe they were there for me, and they woke up some part of me that wanted to fight. Shortly after I got out of there, even though my mood did not get any better and I was just as suicidal, I did get put in touch with an amazing author and counselor. I read his book called "When Going Through Hell, Don't Stop." 12 Weeks to a Better Mood Healing from Depression book from Douglas Block. You know, that was put in my hand when I was there. I read that and I just found hope. So I don't want to babble anymore. I didn't really know what I would want to say. But I just want to say that the people there, in my experience, wanted me to be okay, and they cared for me. And they took me serious, whether I wanted to be taken serious or not, you know. And I live to tell the tale, and in the back of my mind, I know that it's brave to be there. It was brave of my mom. You know, as angry as I was for a second that she took me, it was brave of her to go there, you know, and asking for help and being that low is not a sign of weakness. It didn't make me weak. That's just what happens when you get severely depressed. And it was just part of my story. So they never put me in a straitjacket. They were never abusive verbally or physically. They were great. God bless this one dude that would play the guitar every night in this little like lobby area. You know, for when you can't feel anything, you know, music has a way of cutting through the void, cutting through the numbness, the darkness, just a little bit. Anyway, I survived. For better or worse, I'm really glad that my mom took me there. I'm really glad she did. And I have every confidence that if it came down to it, they would take me again, if that's what needed to happen. And as far as anyone wondering what structure was, of course they would make sure you were safe. They'd check on you all the time. There would be meals and snacks available, and they'd make sure you went and got something to eat. I don't know how they took care of more severe cases than me. I saw other people that seemed way better than me. I couldn't believe they were there. So varying degrees of conditions, but there was structure, there was love, you know, and there was utter sadness in there too, but I'm here, and that's my story. That's my experience being in a psychiatric ward. I have not gone back. I'm really grateful, but I know it's there if I ever were to need it again, and I hope you know that if you feel unsafe, if you feel at all unsafe, don't let your depression, your anxiety, your schizophrenia, your bipolar, your manic depression, don't let your condition make a choice so permanent as taking your own life. Don't let that condition take that from you. Make that choice, because that's not the real you, as corny as that sounds. Because, you know, me now, as desperate as I was to die back then, I'm just so desperate to be alive now. I'm so grateful. And you know I was in there, but that wasn't me. I was just a scared boy suffering. And I'm so glad I didn't have the opportunity to follow through with those suicidal feelings, and that I'm still here to share my experience, connect with you guys, you know, try to make my little mark on this world, and help as many people as I can know that they are not alone, and that there's hope. There absolutely is hope. So please, if you've been in a psychiatric ward, if you've been on psychiatric hold or in a mental health hospital, you know, how was your experience? Was it generally positive despite being so incredibly depressing? Or was it really terrible? Some bad happened, some good happened. I'm hoping you guys will share words of hope so that people don't feel afraid if they need to go take themselves to the ER to stay safe, they can. And if you're someone who's, you know, considering taking someone, just know that they'll be safe. And even if they don't understand why you would do it then, hopefully with time, like myself, excuse me, they can gain some perspective, and they can eventually understand it was a really good thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. appreciate you guys. I hope you're having a great day, and thank you for always letting me share. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really grateful that I can talk about these situations. I've never spoken on this, and I don't know why. It's just because it's sad and it's overwhelming. It was so scary to be that lost, but I can just be vulnerable and share that, and that's really cool. I've always thought that was a really cool aspect of this platform. People all around the world are going to be able to connect with me and let me know I'm not alone, and I can let you know you're not alone, and that it doesn't make you crazy to have to be on lockdown. It's just life. It's not all roses and butterflies. It's dark, it's ugly, it's scary, and it's twisted. It doesn't make you less of a person. Not that you asked. We'll see you guys in the next video. Please take good care of yourself. If you're suffering, be brave. You are much stronger than you think. That's for sure. And the you in the future that's doing better, he or she will not give a fuck how shitty you feel now in terms of dwelling on it. You move on. You'll be grateful you're alive, even if you can't imagine being so. It took years for me to find myself being glad I was alive, but it happened in spite of me. So one day, 1 hour, 1 minute at a time, you can get through whatever you're going through. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take good care.